how often do we as people just have someone in our lives cross our mind who we love, but without ever following that with any action? And so I just... Slightly different setup tonight, July 7th. And so many things coming through that I want to talk about this evening. I apologize, audio will be a little different. You'll hear the planes, you'll hear the crackling fire, and you might not be able to hear me as well, but honestly, I think those of you that are following along recognize the realism in these videos and that it's not going to be perfect. And so, one, appreciating all of you who have been here, who continue to comment and watch and follow along, because I think that's so cool to be able to begin to build this community that's centered around the location of appreciation. And today, there's no way I'm going to be able to fit this in the way that I want to, but there's so many different things on my mind that I'd love to speak on. The first is I had the opportunity to catch up with a cousin. Him and I are 2 months apart. We grew up always living side by side in houses. Our parents built a duplex together that we were both like raised in. And then every time they would move, we would move, and every time we would move, they would move. And so we were always together. And I haven't spoken to him consistently in like a couple years. And he had a kid, and he's getting married in a month. And the amount of times that he had crossed my mind and my heart, and I just never reached out. I was just, man, I'm thinking of him. I wonder how he's doing. I wonder how little man is. I wonder how all the things are, and wouldn't reach out. And how often do we as people just have someone in our lives cross our mind who we love, but without ever following that with any action? And so I just made the choice, like, hey, I'm gonna reach out. I miss you. I've been thinking of you. I want to call you and catch up, and had that opportunity to catch up today. And it was just so nourishing, like, to be able to hear about his life and what's going on. And perhaps this is an invitation to all of us to do that more when we think of someone, to follow it with an action if necessary. But I think it's really cool. Relationships are such a beautiful part of this experience here. And the second note, this is my kind of 3 homework for life's wins highlights, would be I'm thinking about pursuing a career or an experience of becoming a real estate agent and all that comes with that. And I'm navigating that choice internally, whether or not I go into it or I choose a different path. And I'm trying to gather information and perspective while I do so. And I got on a call with a gentleman who was a good family friend, and he had been a real estate agent for 5 years, but then found teaching, fell in love with teaching, and decided to do that instead and pour his heart and soul into that endeavor. So I have this opportunity to speak to someone who's been in the game, but only left it because they loved something more. And I think that's a really unique place to be in. And it was just such a, part of me is like, it's so cool to gather information from our world to help us make choices. And actually what came out of this whole thing was that I actually need to ask better questions to help discern the answers I'm looking for. But what is the answer underneath all of it? Because why do I want a career change in the first place? That could get very deep very quickly. And I'm not going to go into it here because I don't want to over storyize. It's not a word, but to create a story too much around something begins to muddy the true intent, and maybe it's just a latent desire that doesn't need an explanation. My third piece of homework, my homework for life, was actually a moment today. I was at the Ninja Gym, and there was an adult class, and there was a 57-year-old in one of these classes, and I saw him doing muscle-ups. And I was like, damn, I went over and I was like, dude, I want to be doing muscle-ups when I'm your age. What the heck? What's the trick? And he literally gave me this one tip, and then I just went and did 2 muscle-ups. And I did not think I was going to be able to do them. I honestly did not hold the belief that I had not been training for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I was feeling not as strong, and literally whatever tip he gave me just allowed me to do 2 muscle-ups. And I was like, wow, I just shattered. It's almost as though he poured his belief into me, and I was able to lean on the sheer, one, the technique that he gave me, but simultaneously he was just so enthusiastic. He's like, absolutely, this is what you do. It's just like this. It's so simple. And I did it, and it was like, what the heck? I surprised myself. And that's part of what I want to open to in this next chapter, is surprising myself more often. And by surprising myself, I mean the soul or the deeper aspect of me doesn't struggle with those things, but the identity or the ego, Jake, perhaps holds certain limitations around what I believe I'm capable of, and to be open to letting those parts of me be shattered or disproven in ways, because it reminds me that there's a narrative that's constantly running and it's not always super empowering. And so to lean more on the miraculous, on the trust foundation, on the enthusiasm, the support, the encouraging narratives that allow me a little bit more broader range of freedom when it comes to the things I'm exploring.